Hello everyone, I hope you are well. Today we are going to be discussing Arsenal's Premier League campaign so far and what has led the Gunners to this point where they currently find themselves 9 points behind Liverpool Football Club. Can the Gunners push on? Which remains to be seen, but what has happened thus far, the major talking points for Arsenal to be in this position? As always, if you do enjoy today's video, please be sure to like and subscribe for more from me. The natural starting point is to look at Arsenal's record this season. So far, they have 5 wins, 4 draws and 2 losses. I think we should go through the games on an individual basis first, before discussing other external factors around Arsenal's performance. So, the Gunners started out the season with a game against Wolves at home. They became 2-0 victors in this. Havertz and Saka scored the goals, and it was a very good attacking performance. Arsenal had 18 shots. It was basically a full-strength lineup. Zinchenko did start, though. And the Havertz goal was from a Saka in-swinger from the right wing to where Havertz headed it into the goal. Raya had a great game in this one and stopped a Larson header very, very impressively. And Saka's goal was a powerful shot past the near post from the right-hand side. And it looked like Arsenal had left off where they finished off last season. Arsenal then had an away trip to Villa where they won 2-0. The scoreline doesn't really reflect the game in its entirety. Ollie Watkins missed 2 really good chances. One was a sitter past the left-hand post. The other was an incredible double save from our keeper, David Raya. From our side, Ødegaard was phenomenal throughout, but we were just massively let off in that game. Villa probably should have had something from the game. Trossard was an impact sub, which got the deadlock to put us 1-0 up against the run of play. The second goal was Saka, where he played it to the edge of the box to Thomas Partey, who put it past Martinez at full stretch. Martinez probably could have done better, but Raya was man of the match in this one. We then went to Brighton. We were dominating the game. Phenomenal performance. And then the game just changed on a angle, really. Rice got a red card for kicking the ball away before getting thumped by the Brighton player. And realistically, that changed the game. We conceded very shortly after that. I think it was 7 minutes after the red card. And to be honest, the red card changed the whole game in its entirety. We were the dominant side in that one up to that point. But we dropped our first points of the season against Brighton. We then went on and impressively beat Tottenham away to get us back to winning ways. This was our first game without Martin Ødegaard, who got injured on international duty, which, as you will have seen recently, has massively affected Arsenal's results this season. We had some great chances, but didn't take many. Low possession within this game, though, it has to be said. Spurs had a lot of speculative efforts, but no real proper chance. In the 64th minute, the deadlock was broken by Bukayo Saka. He whipped a ball in from his right-hand corners as he takes to Gabriel, who headed home. And let's be honest, Vicario should have done better in this one. On the 19th of September, we then travelled to Italy and took on our first Champions League fixture of the season. This was against Atalanta, and David Raya was man of the match. He performed a spectacular double save, even better than the one he did earlier in the season against Villa. It was an impressive performance from him. A cagey game though, 0-0, and it's a good point to start our campaign off. David Raya's double save was from a penalty. He saved the penalty and then it came back out and he made the second save. After a rather disappointing lacklustre performance in the Champions League in terms of chance creation, we then went to Man City. And they took an early lead through Haaland. He got between the 2 defenders, unfortunately, in a gap. But then we equalised with a wonder goal in Calafiori's first start for the club. This was then increased our distance as Gabriel headed home from a corner. I don't know if you've seen the goal, but Walker does a really funny job of just tapping Gabriel, and Gabriel's gone for the corner, heads it home, bang, 2-1 up. Then, just before the end of half time, I think it was the 45th minute plus 5, Trossard decides to kick the ball away. I think there's 0.8 seconds between the ref whistle for the foul and him kicking the ball away. I don't think it's enough time for him to react, to be honest. But he got his second yellow card, our second yellow card for kicking the ball away this season. We had a red card. City then have the full half to play against 10 men, Arsenal. But it took until the 90 plus 8 minute for John Stones to score the equaliser. City celebrated like mad. Arsenal were heartbroken. And to be honest, in terms of the effort Arsenal put in, it was kind of undeserved. We then did a 5-1 run-of-the-mill dispatch of Bolton to bring us back to winning ways, get the confidence back up. Nwaneri got the double, and it was a Porter debut in goal because Neto was cup-tied and Raya had taken a knock in the City game. We then got a valiant win against Leicester, blew a 2-goal lead though in this one, but Nwaneri... not Nwaneri, sorry. We dropped a 2-goal lead, and then we got a 4-2 victory in the end. So that's the better team. Fair enough. PSG home win in the Champions League was probably our best performance against a side in the season that far. 2-0 routine victory there. We were in control. Mikel Moreno made his debut off the bench in that game. Ramsdale then returned to the Emirates, which saw Arsenal win 3-1 after going 1 behind. Saka was absolutely unreal in that game. Bournemouth followed. The game was cagey for the first 20, and then our third red card of the season. Trossard played a really poor back pass over the back line, played in Evanilson, and Saliba instinctively brought him down last man. And that was the first red card, I think, that probably was a red card and fairly given. Shortly after that, we conceded and we ended up losing the game 2-0. But we did actually create quite a few chances in that game, which watching the highlights back, I didn't really remember from the game. We then beat Shakhtar in a really poor performance, 1-0 at the Emirates. Didn't create anything. An own goal scored for us from a Martinelli deflected shot. Liverpool was next then. We had no Ødegaard, no Saliba because of obviously his red card in the previous game in the Premier League. We played well. We were the better team, but Kivior's positioning cost us late on when he had to come on for an injured Timber. And Salah managed to get in between him when Kivior got the distances wrong in the back line. So that meant that it was a 2-2 draw in the end. We then had a routine 3-0 cup game against Preston. We won't go into that too much. We lost to Newcastle 1-0 in definitely the worst performance we've had this season. No creativity at all. Really showed that we were missing Ødegaard. We then had back-to-back losses as we then lost 1-0 to Inter away in a game that, to be honest, we dominated and were a much better team, so that's annoying. And then finally, against Chelsea on Saturday, whenever it was, we drew 1-1. Even game, to be honest, fair result, I'd say. So that's a lowdown of the results. And recently there's been sort of a turn in the form that's led us being 9 points behind Liverpool. We haven't been good recently. The form's dipped after a strong start to the season, but unfortunately that is the way it is. That's the situation we are in. We were second favourites for the league this year, especially if City dropped off. We were probably favourites for the league, but now we find ourselves in fourth so far. Can we get it back? Remains to be seen. I'd probably say we can't. I think the league season may be over, but we are in a disappointing situation, and there's more context with it than that. With that in mind, what has been the cause for that rocky start for Arsenal? Why are Arsenal in a situation now where they find themselves 9 points behind Liverpool? I think the first factor we have to bring in is discipline. 3 red cards to start the season off is not good enough from any team. It puts you in a disadvantaged position, especially in the Premier League where the margins are so tight. Granted, 2 of the red cards were very dubious. I think Saliba's red card was a definite red, in my opinion. Should be within the laws of the game. Declan Rice's one, I actually think it should be a red card for the Brighton player. I can't lie. And Trossard's one, I'm on the fence with because he does kick the ball away. So within the new laws, that is a red card. But there's 0.8 seconds. Can he react in that time? I think the referee should have managed the game in that instance. But oh well, that's the situation we found ourselves in. We have to sort of reset that discipline, make sure we don't get any more red cards going forwards, because that is going to cost us a lot of points over the course of the season. Let's not put ourselves in that situation, and let's sort out the discipline. Another negative that we have had throughout the season is chance creation. Without Ødegaard, our system has massively changed. Arteta started playing a 4-4-2 with Trossard and Havertz sort of dovetailing and interlinking on that left-hand sort of side. It initially worked, but started becoming mechanical sort of recently, and at least. Arsenal became predictable, and the unpredictability stopped without Ødegaard being in the lineup. And we just don't score enough. It's as simple as that. Pressing-wise, without Ødegaard, Havertz has had to lead the press, which has left to us being a bit more ineffective in the press. He's not good at the defensive timings to when to step out, when to trigger the press, which is what Ødegaard is excellent at. So naturally, we are just worse defensively in that regard. Defensively then, that also gets impacted because then we're bad at pressing from the front, means that the defence is more exposed, which means we're conceding more goals. The spaces between the centre-backs has been notably worse than in previous seasons, especially the last two. And there's been a constant change to the defensive line, which is kind of out of our control, with, for example, against Liverpool, Partey having to play right back. Peter Saliba's been in and out, obviously, with his red card, and left back's been rotational. Calafiori is now out injured. Timber's also been injured this season. And that leads on to injuries. We've had massive issues so far with injuries. It's unavoidable. We've had massive players such as Ødegaard, Rice and Saka all have missing a few games with injuries this season, mainly Ødegaard. And finally, Edu. Edu has left as the director of football operations, I think that's his title, with Arsenal, which leads some uncertainty, especially at the top in the club. You'd also imagine that he was probably dealing with certain contracts that were ongoing, transfers that were ongoing, so it remains to be seen sort of what impact that has behind the scenes, but I know that Edu was apparently really popular with the players, especially the Brazilian ones, so hopefully that doesn't impact them that much, but we don't know how much that's going to impact it going forwards. With that, I do want to touch upon what went well in the season so far, because yes, it's all doom and gloom at the moment. We're in a bad space. We're 9 points behind the leaders, but we did start off really well, as I just read out with the games. So I actually think now we are a more balanced team. Whilst we dropped a level in terms of with Ødegaard being out the side, it meant that the left side of attacks actually seems to be more effective than last season, meaning that we aren't as right side dependent from Ødegaard, Saka, White. We are still right side dependent when Ødegaard's been back, but it shows that the left team can offer us something. Left side can offer us something at some point. When Merino gets into that lineup consistently, I think that will also help with that. Saka has really gone up a level and played his best football this season, in my opinion. 3 goals, 7 assists in 10 games in the league. But you just watch him. He's another level to what he's ever been. He's now more of a chance creator, especially with Ødegaard being out of the side, and is a massive bright spark for this Arsenal team. Another positive, Raya. David Raya. Honestly, the start to the season he had was one of the best keepers starts I've ever seen. He was the deciding factor in the first few games, was unbeatable, unbelievable. He's a real presence, box claimer, really good under the ball on his feet. And he's a very, very good keeper. Probably the best keeper in the league, maybe? Is that too much of a stretch? Maybe, maybe not. Then finally, I think what went well is management, sort of injury management, load management. For example, Saka, Rice, Ødegaard have not been allowed to go on international duty this time round in this break for the first part of the season. So that's really good. That's going to manage the load, hopefully stops injuries going forward. What do Arsenal need to do next then? Is get Ødegaard back. It's as simple as that. He is such a good player. We started the season so well, and this may be as simple as bringing him back in and we can fix the issues. We all saw against Chelsea when he played. It looked like the Arsenal of old that we're used to seeing. I also think that we do need to introduce more forward runners. It's fair to say that off-the-ball movement has been a bit lax recently. The players look a bit fatigued. Definitely we need more line-breaking runners. Injury load management, let's keep on top of that as a team. Consistent lineups, we need to start keeping players fit and available so that we can build relationships on the pitch. Overall, so far, I would give the season a rating of a C, because poor decisions, performances, etc. But we still have time to turn it all around. It's helped the rating because City have also had a poor year. So we're only, 5 points off City? We're not anywhere near out of reach of them yet. If it was City and Liverpool's position, then I'd be a bit more worried. But equally, I don't think we're going to win the league either way. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this season so far. I hope you have enjoyed. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more from me. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.